And now back to one of our top stories. Joining us live to discuss this in further depth is Kevin Curran, a professor of cybersecurity at the Faculty of Computing Engineering and Built Environment, Ulster University. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Angela.
What do you make of these the latest batch of information that was released by the hacker group Anonymous regarding claims of the UK planning to mine Sevastopol? Do you believe that could have possibly been true?
Well, we do know that the Integrity Initiative, which comes from the Institute for Statecraft, is their project, they have not disputed their authenticity. And of course, they reacted by blaming Russia for the hack and saying that Russian media is amplifying the impact of this. But, you know, and in a statement last month, they confirmed that at least some of the documents leaked by the group were authentic. Again, they didn't rule out the possibility some of them may have been false or doctored, but I don't see the need for that really when you have explosive documents like this, that even the Integrity Initiative themselves have said that these documents are authentic. And I can even echo David Miller, who's a professor of political sociology in Bristol University, and he said that the Integrity Initiative and the Foreign Office are effectively admitting that they're being accused of doing something wrong, so they haven't got anywhere to go. And of course, we know the hacker group Anonymous do have a track record of leaking authentic documents. This is one of the most famous hacker groups in the world, and they have had some major exposures again. And this is just another one of those again, where you know that they've released documents again from the Institute for Statecraft, again shown back in 2014. One of these documents shows that Christopher Donnelly, a special advisor to the House of Commons Defence Committee, laid out a number of suggestions to the British authorities just days before Crimea's reunification with Russia that included mining Sevastopol harbour. And it gave a whole list of instructions like set up a cordon sanitaire across the Crimea Isthmus and on the coast, and what to do and why it would be effective. So, these documents really seem to be authentic.
So but aren't mines illegal now, pretty much? Well, land mines are. I don't know about ocean mines. And then this was never done. I mean, if there was this intention, if this was just suggested, what's the harm if this, was, of course, was not taken seriously and no steps were taken to actually put this into place?
Yeah, of course. But, the fact is that we have these, which seems to be a really severe way of doing something. But also what we have here again is just, what we have, it really is, one country influence another countries really. And again, where's the transparency in this really? And just, we would like an accountable security service as well. But it does seem like a really severe, measure to take.
Right. Anonymous also said that they had released a second batch of documents after EU leaders and international organizations ignored their first disclosure. How much proof does there need to be exposed? I know before some kind of public action is taken, and what kind of action should be taken? What kind of reaction should there be to these disclosures?
Yeah, well, the Foreign Office have admitted that it funded the Institute for Statecraft again, and there's proof of Foreign Office cash being dispensed in a manner which ultimately has led to the smearing of British politicians such as George Galloway and Jeremy Corbyn, whom they perceive to be pro-Russian again, because one of the Twitter accounts associated with this institute has taken these negative tweets really about leaders like Jeremy Corbyn. As well. And of course, Foreign Office Minister Sir Alan Duncan confirmed that the Foreign Office was funding the Institute's Integrity Initiative. And again, we know that they received £2 million of funding, really. And again, and the spokesman for the government has also said that they do not endorse or fund the Institute's social media activity. And they insisted, of course, that the retweeting showed no systematic bias, but they said that they would agree to review its editorial policy. But, even George Galloway has come along saying that, the existence of these clusters is not denied, and either is a source of the wealth Britain and other Western governments, he says, and the purpose is to weaken and damage Russia. And that can scarcely be denied either, he says. In fact, it's the reason that's threat. Look, I understand why military powers like the UK have offensive and defensive tactics, but we require in a democracy is an accountable security service. okay, maybe because of the nature of this being warfare, we cannot expect full public transparency, but we do require accountability within government. And what you can't have is an incumbent government using funds to attack the opposition in a covert manner, such as being exposed here.
Right. How can you explain the paradox whereby you said that Jeremy Corbyn has been targeted due to the fact that he's pro-Russian, and yet Russia supposedly was involved in being, in the Brexit poll, and we're actually, pro-Brexit from the standpoint of divide and conquer.
Yeah, but we've seen this for a long time now. That like in the United States, you find that everything that happens really tends to be blamed upon China. In the UK, it seems of late that anything that happens really points back towards Russia. So we seem to be at a very low point in our long relations with Russia, really. Of course, it goes back to the 19th century again. They were allies. The Russia and the UK were allies against Napoleon. Again, they were allies in the First World War and Second World War. But of course, in the 50s, again, the Cold War came along, and again, it's taken on the heightened of late again. That it seems to be back to Cold level wars again, where both sides were accusing each other, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis again. So, again, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to ascertain really the truth of a lot of what we're hearing, and this is just another example.
Okay. So is there any truth in that the UK is perhaps attempting to put blame on Russia in a bid to distract the population from various domestic problems, Brexit, for instance?
It's always possible, but it's a hard one to see because, in this case, especially because of the social media accounts which have been found to be, use a spin against Jeremy Corbyn again and George Galloway and others. It's hard to see why they would want that released. I think that this is just a genuine hack. It's been a hack by an elite hacking group. It's leaked a lot of documents, again, which are particularly embarrassing. Again, it shows a lack of transparency within government. It shows covert operations against the opposition. It's hard for me to see that this was a deliberate attempt to leak any of this so that it would distract the public, because, again, people are distracted anyway by everything. But I think that actually they've just really got hacked here, and that I think that more revelations will follow, and I think we may see bigger stories emerge from the leaked documents from this integrity initiative, which comes from the Institute for Statecraft.
Right. To what extent has this already impacted the public and their trust in government? Has this been a pretty widespread story? I mean, how effective is this leak by Anonymous in disclosing what is actually going on?
It's still below the radar, even though you can say in the UK, the Sky News have covered it, the BBC have covered it, the Guardian have covered it, the Daily Record have covered it, the Sunday Times have covered it, but yet there's been very little pickup really by the mass media. There's been no public outrage from what I can see. Of course, politicians, there's investigations going on within Parliament and such, but it really is not at the top of the news agenda. As of course, Brexit dominates the news cycle here. Again, the usual stories again for the rest of the world. Paris at the moment, the US always, Donald Trump is always there. This is very, very low on the radar, even though some of the major publications have each run a story on it as such. But no, the general public really are not seeing this for what it is.
Okay. And finally now, it seems that earlier Anonymous had published information pointing to the fact that the UK had funded an anti-Russian information campaign across Europe. Why do you think that would have been done? Again, if they perceive that Russia is doing the same, if they perceive China is doing the same, again, it's so easy nowadays because of the fake news problems within social media. Again, just the impact that was given probably wrongly towards the influence of the elections in America, again, as if people were really influenced by, what they were seeing on their Facebook pages. Again, it takes a lot more than that to change people's opinion.
But there seems to be a lot of public funding available for people who can come along and say that we will able to counter these disinformation online. We'll be able to do this. We'll be able to do that. Again, just what seems to happen in this case is someone has come along and says that we can counteract disinformation. We can be proactive about it as well. And please give us money. And it seems that the government have done that, and they've done it again in this particular project again, which goes right across Europe and has got NATO allies involved again. So what we have is a pro-European approach to seems to be able to basically provide disinformation to again against Russia, really, in this case.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been talking to Kevin Curran, a professor of cybersecurity at the Faculty of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment, Ulster University.